guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new to my channel, welcome. Before you do anything, please subscribe so you don't miss any of my next reviews. We are rounding the corner to the holiday season and I have a ton of new makeup that I need to review for you guys. But today I am going to be reviewing a very highly anticipated launch. This is the Huda Beauty New Nude Eyeshadow Palette, and it is so beautiful. So I actually posted this palette up to my Instagram. I asked you guys to ask me questions, and so I have a list of questions that I want to cover in this video. If you guys are new to my channel, I post really in-depth reviews, which means sometimes they can be quite lengthy. So I will leave timestamps in the description if you guys are interested in, swatches or the tutorial or something specific. So personally, this palette really spoke to me because it has some new textures in it. So it has some pressed glitters in it. It obviously has a bunch of mattes, but it also has these highly reflective pearls. So they look unlike anything that I have personally seen in the pan. It's like mesmerizing. So here is the interior of the Huda Beauty New Nude palette. This is an 18 pan eyeshadow palette. It retails for $65. It is not cheap. $65, however, brings each of these shadows down to $3.60 individually. So reading the back of the palette, it has 10 buttery mattes, 4 multi-reflective pearls, 2 pressed glitters, 1 pressed pearl, and a concealer base. The concealer base is another feature of this palette that is innovative and new to me, so it does have that sticky base layer so that you can add those glitters or pearls over top and make them stand out. So it basically has its own primer in it. Some random facts: this palette is available on Sephora and in Sephora starting November 1st. So when this video is up, you guys can get this palette there. It has a 12-month suggested shelf life. This palette is also made in Italy, which I find very interesting. So I am wearing this palette on my eyes today. You guys will see that tutorial a little bit later on. But first impression, the shades in this palette blend beautifully with each other. I did not have any standout problems with any of these shadows or glitters. So before I jump into sharing swatches and my tutorial, I did have a few requests to compare this palette with the other Huda Beauty palettes that I have in my collection. Personally, I think that this palette is unlike anything that I own, even from Huda Beauty. So here is one of the Huda Beauty palettes that I own. This is the Rose Gold Remastered. Obviously, this does not look much like the New Nude palette. This is the Desert Dusk. So it has a bit more variety than the Nude palette. It has warmer tones, it has a purple in there, and it does have the pressed glitter as well. In my opinion, the New Nude palette is definitely more of a soft, romantic, bridal-esque palette. This palette is definitely going to be for the neutral lover. It has mauvey purple tones in it. It has 2 pressed glitters that are more of a mauvey copper and also a champagne, like pinky purple champagne glitter. The closest palette that I have to a color scheme similar to the New Nude is the new Urban Decay Naked Cherry palette. This is the Naked Cherry. The thing is, you're not going to get as much vibrancy. You're certainly not going to get any glitter in this palette, but it does have very similar bridal-esque, romantic, soft mauvey tones. So if you're just interested in mattes, then you're probably going to be fine if you already have this in your collection. But I just feel like there is more variety in the New Nude palette. So that is it for comparison and just my initial thoughts on this palette. It is time to get down and dirty and swatch the entire thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and share swatches of this palette with you guys. Here is the top row. We have Bare, which is a matte white. Crave, which is one of those high intensity pearls. Play, which is more of a matte peach, which kind of blends in with my skin tone. Fantasy is another reflective pearl, which looks almost like a duochrome purpley magenta. Then we have Love Bite, which is a deep matte purple, and Spanked, which is a matte mauvey purple. Daydream is a multi-reflective pearl. Tickle is a really beautiful mauvey pinky matte. Then we have the first pressed glitter, which is Excite. The next one is Infatuated, and then we have a pressed pearl called Kinky that is, again, kind of like a shimmery magenta, purple, maroon. I don't even know how to describe it. And then we have the last row. So I skipped over the concealed base and I went right to Secret, which is a really beautiful transition matte. Then we have Tease and Raw, which are also mattes. And then we have Charmed, which is the reflective pearl in this row. And as you maybe can see, you can see that there is some brown but also purple in that swatch. So you really want to swirl the whole thing together before you apply it on the eye. Otherwise, you're going to get multiple colors in a swatch. And then we have the shade Teddy, which is a matte and is my favorite transition shade out of the palette. Okay, so those were all of the swatches out of the palette. For the most part, they all swatched very, very consistently. And it is amazing to me that these pressed glitters, once they go on, they're very, very difficult to get off. So with that being said, I don't think that you absolutely need to have a glitter glue or base down in order for it to stick to your eye. I do not have a base down underneath the glitter on my eye today. It's still there. It's going strong. It was very, very difficult to get off my arm, let me tell you. So I think that they got the formula right when it comes to those glitters. Now, I am going to give you my one kind of negative when it comes to this palette, and that is the concealed creamy base. I don't really feel like it's necessary in the palette. Maybe if you guys are beginners and you don't have any like concealer or eye primer or anything else that you can use, but I am not a massive fan of that shade. I did not swatch it for you on my arm because it does not show up. It is more of a sheer tacky base. It does not cover any pigmentation on my skin at least. And I did have a question about the concealer in here, and that was, will it get a bunch of shadow in it if you're dipping back and forth? And the answer is definitely. It is a sticky product. You guys can't see it, but it does have some glitters stuck to it already. So I'm sure with use of this palette, it obviously is going to end up getting pretty dirty and full of glitter and other eyeshadows if you are dipping back and forth into that concealer shade. But you can, of course, scrape off the layers until it's gone, at least. So Huda Beauty sent 3 brushes along with this palette. One of them was a silicone tip and a sponge tip on the other end. The silicone tip kind of failed me. I don't think that that is really doing what they want it to do. They want it to act like a finger. I honestly feel like the sponge tip acted more like a finger than anything. So you certainly don't need to buy a sponge tip from Huda Beauty. You can obviously get them much cheaper anywhere else, and you can get the disposable ones, use it, throw it away, and you'll be golden. I don't think that you need to have these fancy brushes. I also don't think that these ones were anything special. They obviously worked. I think they're really pretty, but I'm not a huge fan of dual-ended brushes because I don't really have anywhere where I can store them safely. One end of the brush for me is, you know, gonna get smushed because I store my brushes in cups, but they worked. They certainly worked, and there was nothing wrong with them, and I enjoyed having them, but you don't need them. So if there's any unanswered questions, please leave them down below. I feel like maybe I'm missing something here, hopefully not. I did want to answer all of the questions that I got, and if I didn't answer them with the swatches or the tutorial, please leave them down below if you have any more questions on this palette or concerns, and hopefully I will be able to answer them for you. I am going to go ahead and switch over to my Ultra HD camera so that I can zoom right in and show you guys the look that I created today with this palette. So I'm gonna leave you guys with that. That is my first impression of the new Huda Beauty New Nude palette. So for this tutorial portion of the video, I am going to use the Huda Beauty brushes that were sent along with the palette. We have a few different dual-ended brushes. I think the most interesting one is this one. It has a sponge applicator and a silicone applicator for picking up those glitters like it's your finger, like you're supposed to be able to use the silicone tip as if it's your finger. And then we do have some blending, packing, smudging, dual-ended brushes. And I've had so many questions on this palette, so the way I kind of want to do this tutorial is I'm going to start off doing my typical natural, maybe matte, maybe a little bit of shimmer eye look, and then I'm going to take that eye look and turn it glam. I want to see if I can get some dimension in the eye look, and I want to use these glitters that I'm getting a lot of questions about. So as I go into this palette for my looks, I'm going to have these shadows pop up at the bottom of the screen so you guys know exactly which shade I'm using without me having to show it to you every single time. So to start off my look, I'm going to go in with the matte white shade Bear, and I'm going to take this end of the brush and I'm going to fluff it underneath my brow bone for a matte brow bone highlight. Right now I just have concealer down as a base with a little bit of translucent powder. I'm going to pick up the shade Teddy. It's kind of a neutral brown shade, and I'm going to place this in the outer third and attempt to kind of blend it into the crease. This isn't my most typical blending brush. It's kind of an odd shape, but I'm gonna make it work. So far I'm having no issues blending this shade. Next I want to deepen that up just a little bit in the outer corner, so I'm going to go into the shade Raw with the same brush, and I'm going to tap and blend right in that outer portion. Okay, so this palette has a very unique concept in it. It has a cream base inside of it called Concealed, and this concealed shade is supposed to help the glitters, the shimmers, and everything to stick and be more vibrant. It is a little bit yellowy tinted, so it should be interesting. What I'm going to try to do is pick it up with the pointy silicone tip of this brush and apply it to the inner third of my eye. I don't think this silicone brush is really gonna work for this the way that I want it to. I think this conceal shade is definitely going to be best applied with your finger. It really, I think, is going to act as a glitter glue, but it doesn't have a ton of pigment. I don't think it's really going to conceal your eyelid if you use it on its own, but we will see if that helps the next shade go on better. I'm gonna take the shade Crave, which is one of the multi-reflective pearls, and I'm going to try to pick it up with the sponge tip applicator, and I'm gonna tap this onto my lid. Oh yeah, this sponge definitely helps apply. So these pearls are really interesting. They're almost like duochrome shadows. You really have to dip into the whole shadow to get all of the colors together. These pearls are definitely unlike anything I've seen in a pan before. Like, you can see the crushed elements inside the pan. And then there's a brush with a really small little tip to it. I'm gonna go into that shade Teddy, and I'm gonna be putting this underneath both of my eyes. My wrinkles are so bad today for some reason, so we're just gonna cover them right up. A very common question I've had about this palette is, how deep can the looks go, or will this be appropriate for people with deeper skin tones? So I want to see if I can really deepen this look up and go to a more glam look. Let's see if we can deepen up and glamify the look that I have right now. So I still want this shade Crave to be seen, so what I'm gonna do is pick up a little bit on one of these brushes here, and I'm gonna use Crave as my brow bone highlight. It definitely picked up better with the sponge tip applicator, so I'm gonna go ahead and say those multi-reflective pearls work really well with a sponge tip, which means they're gonna work really well with your finger. The only shade in the palette that is really deeper than the shade Raw is the shade Love Bite, which is a deep matte purple. So I'm gonna pick this up with a brush that I have not used yet, and I'm going to apply this in the outer portion of the lid and kind of carve out the lid space, because I am going to attempt to put one of these glitters on there. So I'm gonna say, if you use Love Bite, you can definitely get a fairly deep dimensional look. That is the deepest shade though in the palette, and so you're not obviously gonna get much darker than that unless you go into a second palette or use a black or use an eyeliner. An eyeliner will obviously deepen up the look. I'm probably going to use an eyeliner today, but I have not decided yet. Okay, so right now, first impression, you guys are going to get my reaction to dipping my fingers into the pressed glitters. So Excite and Infatuated. I'm going to take my dry fingers and just rub back and forth. And that right there is what you get with just dry fingers. I think I want to use the lighter of the two, which is the shade Infatuated. And I just tried to wipe this off my fingers and it's not really going anywhere. So that's interesting. I feel like once it's on, which is interesting and probably a good thing. Okay, so I'm going to try to pick up Infatuated with the silicone applicator. No, that's not working. So the silicone applicator is probably just going to be better for shimmers. It's not working for the glitter. So let me try the sponge. Okay, the sponge picks up glitter. Quite a bit of glitter. So I might use that today. So I am going to just tap this onto my lid. Wow. I don't know if I really had high hopes for this. I had a lot of questions on the pressed glitters and if you get it all over your face, and with this method, I'm going to go ahead and say, yep, you do. Because I am getting a lot of fallout. It might be better to use a finger than the sponge, but I'm going to go ahead and continue using it for the sake of this video, and I'm going to plop it on the other lid. Yeah, I mean, you get results with that little sponge tip. And obviously, you don't have to buy the Huda sponge tip. You can get those from the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up Raw and Love Bite together. Just blend that outer corner. Make sure there's no glitters over there. If you want your glitter to last longer, you can certainly put down more of that concealer base or a glitter glue. Treat it like a loose glitter, but I just wanted to put it on with nothing so I could kind of give you guys like my raw opinion without beefing up the look. Okay, so I've been wanting to do eyeliner this entire time, so I'm going to go ahead and hop off camera and do my eyeliner, my lashes, and everything, and you guys will see how glam this look can be. Alright you guys, so this is the completed makeup look. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this review, swatches, and tutorial of the new Nude palette by Huda Beauty. I'm going to go ahead and leave links down below where you can purchase this palette if you are interested. Thank you guys so much for watching and for listening to me talk new makeup. If you want to see my next reviews, make sure you are subscribed to my channel, and hopefully I will see you guys all in my next one. Bye.